Before we begin this night prayer, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like this video. Your support means so much. Tonight, I come as I am. Shoulders tight from holding the day together, mind humming like a machine that refuses to power down, heart still trying to organize what cannot be organized. I feel the small knots where I've been gripping too hard, little threads looped around my fingers. The conversation I replayed 3 times and still couldn't perfect. The email I drafted and redrafted because I feared how it might land. The list I built and rebuilt, assigning the right order to moments that were never mine to choreograph. There's a thread for how I should have been stronger, and another for how I should have been softer. A thread for what tomorrow could demand, and a thread for what yesterday still whispers. A thread for the fear that if I rest, something important will unravel without me watching. I notice those threads, and I can name them. I can feel their pull. And yet, I also feel another pull, gentler, quieter, calling me back from the edge of perfection and toward a harbor I can't manage, only enter. So I lay the threads out, one by one, like a seamstress emptying her basket onto a wide table, accepting that every color tells a story. Here is the thread of responsibility. I want to be capable, consistent, dependable, and I feared that if I loosened my grip, people would see me as careless. Here is the thread of image. I wanted to look composed, to sound wise, to appear strong, and I feared that if I faltered, the picture would crack. Here is the thread of safety. I kept trying to predict what might go wrong so I could prevent it, and the more I predicted, the more unsafe I felt. Here is the thread of timing. I had a clock in my chest, and it ticked loud, insisting that everything must land at the exact minute I demand. Here is the thread of comparison, measuring my pace against someone else's highlight reel and punishing myself for not being there yet. Here is the thread of regret, tugging at old mistakes as if I could stitch them into a new shape by thinking harder. Here is the thread of future outcomes, scripting every scene so I wouldn't be surprised, trapping my spirit inside a script I never actually wanted to perform. I spread them out, and I see how they knot around the same core: control. My desire to hold the wheel even when I am exhausted, to steer even when I can't see the shore, to keep rowing at night as if the ocean listens to my arms. I don't say this to shame myself. I say it to tell the truth. I have tried to be the captain of every wave. I have stood on the deck squinting into the dark, demanding that the sea be a spreadsheet. And now, as night folds around me, I am invited to something kinder, a gentle surrender, not a collapse, not a defeat, not a resignation that life will simply sweep me where it wants. No, a holy loosening, a consenting to be carried by a love that sees beyond my lamplight, a God who has weathered every storm and knows the safe way in. God, here I am. You know the threads I've been holding better than I do. You saw every moment today when I wrapped them tighter, thinking tightness would make me safe. You saw me second-guess what I said, rehearse what I didn't say, prepare for what may never happen. You saw the courage it took to show up, to try again, to care as deeply as I do. You also saw the strain. Tonight I make a choice. I open my hands. I let my fingers uncurl, slowly, as if each thread were a tiny life I'm afraid to drop. I'm not throwing them to the wind. No, I'm placing them into your palms, one by one, like precious, fragile things I no longer want to break by holding too tight. Take the thread of responsibility. I will still show up, but I will not be my own savior. I trust that you do not weigh me by my output. Take the thread of image. I can be honest and unvarnished in your presence. I do not need to engineer a perfect impression for you to delight in me. Take the thread of safety. I cannot predict tomorrow into submission. I can only rest in the one who is already there. Take the thread of timing. Let me move at the pace of grace, not panic. Teach me the holy rhythm of enough for today. Take the thread of comparison. I let go of the yardsticks that shrink my soul. Restore my eyes to see the quiet goodness that is mine, not theirs. Take the thread of regret. I release the old scenes that never stop asking for re-edits. Whisper forgiveness through the places where I still feel stained. Take the thread of future outcomes. I will not audition for every possible tomorrow. Help me live the scene I am in with you close. I picture my hands, and I notice how they've been clenched, knuckles pale, wrists tired. I breathe in, and with the slow exhale, my fingers loosen. It's not dramatic. It's small, but I feel it. When I loosen my hands, my shoulders drop. When my shoulders drop, my jaw softens. When my jaw softens, my breath goes lower, deeper. As I breathe, I imagine each thread laid gently onto a quiet shore, not lost, not ignored, set down. I imagine you kneeling with me, gathering each one with care, winding them onto a spool that my worry never made. I hear the faint hush of water. In the distance, a small boat waits in a still harbor, wooden sides worn smooth by years of faithful returns. There's no urgency in that harbor, only a hum of safety that doesn't depend on me. God, I confess. Part of me resists this surrender. Part of me believes that if I don't manage it, the world will tilt. Part of me fears surrender means being careless. Meet that part with your gentleness. Teach it that surrender is not abandonment, it is trust. Surrender is a handover at the end of a long shift. When the night watch arrives, competent, patient, attentive, and says, "Go rest. I've got it now." You are the night watch. You do not slumber. You do not misplace my life. If something needs to be tended while I sleep, you know. If something can wait until morning, you will keep it whole. I remember moments of my day that still buzz, the unfinished tasks, the misunderstood tone, the decisions not yet made. I imagine each one as a paper boat, light and simple. I write a small word on each: work, family, health, money, future, relationships, identity, calling, forgiveness. Then I carry them to the waterline of that harbor. The tide is calm tonight. A gentle inhale and exhale. I set each boat down and give it the smallest nudge. Not to get rid of it, but to acknowledge that the current is wiser than my grip. The boats glide a little, then rest, then glide again, and I feel my chest imitate their pace. God, I am not throwing away what matters to me. I am entrusting what matters to the one who knows how to carry it without tearing. I think about perfectionism, the voice that tells me I earn my safety through flawlessness. Tonight, I'll let that voice grow quiet. I acknowledge the ways perfectionism has tried to protect me. It wanted love. It wanted acceptance. It wanted to keep me from pain or blame. And for the places that feel unresolved tonight, the conversations that can't be tied up with a pretty bow, the questions with no immediate answers, I bless them with space. I let them remain open without calling them failures. I give them to you as works in progress, not emergencies. I do not have to force closure. I can trust a God who finishes what he starts, even when I cannot see the timeline. I can sleep mid-sentence and wake to find your mercy has continued the paragraph without me. God, I offer you my body, too. My eyes, tired from screens and scanning for risk. My neck stiff from bracing. My heart racing from the day's adrenaline. Lay your hand over me like a warm blanket. For every muscle that's been on duty, release it. For every system that's been on high alert, calm it. For my nervous system that has made overachieving into safety, teach it a new song. Slowness, softness, trust. Let my breath be a metronome of your kindness. Inhale, I am yours. Exhale, I am safe. Inhale, I release. Exhale, I receive. And because surrender is not just a feeling, but a choice, I pray words that commit me to this harbor. God, I surrender the outcomes I cannot control. I surrender the approval I cannot guarantee. I surrender the timeline I cannot perfect. I surrender the stories I cannot edit. I surrender my fear of being seen as less than. I surrender my belief that I must always be on. I surrender the myth that rest will make me fall behind. I surrender the habit of rehearsing crises I don't need to live. I surrender the need to understand everything before I trust anything. Take what I cannot carry. Carry what I cannot solve. And while you carry, teach me to rest. If sleep comes quickly, let it be thick and kind, a sweet drift into warmth, like a boat rocking softly in a protected cove. If sleep comes slowly, let the wakefulness be gentle, without the sharp edges of anxiety, like sitting on the dock with feet in the water, watching the moon lay a silver road across the surface while you keep watch beside me. Either way, I refuse to wrestle the night. I choose to let it hold me. I choose to be held by you. I think again of my hands. Earlier they were tight, trying to secure what never belonged to my fists. Now I look at them, and they are open on the blanket, palms up, a small posture of trust. In that openness, I hear the quiet truth. I do not need to be the hero tonight. I do not need to be the captain, the planner, the fixer. I am allowed to be a passenger of grace. I am allowed to be a child, loved without performance, guarded without strategy. I am allowed to be small in the best way, small enough to be gathered, small enough to be carried. So God, gather me, tuck me into the soft places, anchor me where fear can't toss me around. Guard my dreams from the old rehearsals of failure. Open them instead to landscapes of ease, fields where the grass bends but doesn't break, rooms where the windows are cracked just enough for a cool night breeze, shorelines where the horizon promises morning. Remind me that dawn comes without my command. Remind me that your care does not sleep. Remind me that I am safe to stop steering. And if my thoughts wander back to the threads, let them find them not in my fists, but in your gentle keeping. Let me trust that nothing essential will be lost by resting. Let me believe that what is meant for me will still be mine after sunrise, and what isn't meant for me will fall away without requiring another night of vigilance. Let me accept that I am not late to my own life, because I chose to sleep. Tonight, I choose a gentle surrender of control. I choose to ride the small tide of breath until it carries me out of the shallows of worry and into the wider kindness of your presence. I choose the quiet harbor over the endless sea of perfectionism. I choose open palms over clenched fists. I choose to let the boat be still, ropes loose, anchor down, moonlight like a benediction on the water. If I sleep, let it be sweet, like a child who knows a good parent is near. If I remain awake, let wakefulness be soft and unafraid, a companionable silence where I lean against you and hear nothing urgent, only the steady, patient heartbeat of love saying, rest now, I've got the night. There's a kind of tired that doesn't announce itself in yawns. It doesn't pull the eyes closed or weigh the body down the way a long day might. Instead, it hides inside the ribs, coiled like a spring that's been stretched too far. It disguises itself as alertness, productivity, efficiency, readiness. But deep down, it's exhaustion from constantly trying to hold the invisible strings of life together. That's the tired I bring with me tonight. A fatigue that doesn't come from doing too much, but from carrying what was never mine to hold. There were days when I believed that if I just thought hard enough, felt deeply enough, or tried sincerely enough, I could change the direction of things that were never mine to command. I could make someone stay, or heal, or understand. I could guarantee success if I anticipated every possible failure. I could be the glue, the guide, the guardrail. But the truth always circled back, quiet, humbling. I am not the force that holds this world together, and I was never meant to be. God, I bring you the places inside me that are stretched thin, the small muscles that have tensed around control, not just physically, but spiritually, the ones that tighten when I feel like I'm failing at being enough. I know you don't demand that of me. I know you never asked me to be flawless or tireless, but still, I hold on. Maybe because control felt like safety. Maybe because surrender felt too much like freefall. But now, I wonder if freefall in your arms is the very thing I've needed. I thought of surrender as letting go of a rope I was gripping too tightly, but it's more than that. It's the decision to trust the net beneath me. It's the belief that even if my plans fall apart, I won't fall apart with them. It's the choice to rest in a mystery that is deeper than my certainty, to give you the pieces I can't hold without shaking. And not just the obvious ones, not just the big decisions, the big changes. I want to hand over the quiet control too, the need to manage how others see me, the pressure to present myself a certain way even in prayer. I want to be able to say, this is where I'm scared. This is where I still don't believe I'll be loved unless I'm impressive. This is where I feel ashamed for not being stronger. This is where I still try to fix myself before coming to you, as if I need to be tidy before I'm worthy of tenderness. And here is where I stop pretending. Tonight, I want to rest in honesty. Not the kind that demands dramatic confessions or emotional theatrics, but the kind that is soft and bare, the kind that lets me breathe without apology. I am a soul that's been trying very hard. I am a heart that wants to heal. I am a body that's been performing for too long. I am ready to simply be. So I lay down the costumes, the polished words, the efforts to please, the fear of being disappointing. I come to you not as a curated version of myself, but as the raw, beating center of who I am. I don't ask for you to fix me in this moment. I ask to be seen, held, reminded that even without the controls in my hands, I am safe in yours. Let this be a night of unclenching. Let this be the moment where I stop gripping so tightly to the day's script and let the story breathe. Maybe the plot doesn't need my editing. Maybe the characters will find their own rhythm. Maybe the next chapter isn't mine to design, but only to enter with open hands and a softened heart. God, help me recognize the difference between responsibility and burden. Help me carry what is mine with care and release what is not with peace. Teach me that surrender doesn't mean I stop caring. It means I stop micromanaging grace. I stop trying to orchestrate blessings on a schedule. I stop thinking I'm the linchpin of everyone's happiness. I start believing you are already at work in places I cannot reach. There is comfort in believing I don't have to be everywhere at once. I don't have to think 5 steps ahead. I don't have to anticipate pain in order to prevent it. I can live here, in this breath, in this moment, without negotiating with the future. I can let the night be what it is, a space of healing, not a boardroom of planning, a place to release, not to rehearse. So I rest my mind from the overthinking. I give you the spirals of what-ifs, the layered hypotheticals, the imaginary conversations, the mental checklists. Let them fade like clouds at dusk without needing resolution. Let them dissolve because they were never real threads to begin with, just echoes of fear that thought they were necessary. Instead, let something quieter rise in their place. Let silence speak without accusation. Let stillness hold without pressure. Let the dark be a blanket, not a void. Let the quiet be presence, not absence. And in that quiet, let me hear what I've missed in all my striving, the gentle sound of mercy breathing, close and unafraid. Sometimes surrender sounds like I don't know what comes next, but I trust you'll be there. Sometimes it looks like turning off the light before every question is answered. Sometimes it feels like not getting closure and still choosing rest. Sometimes it is less about resolution and more about relationship. And I'm learning slowly, gently, that control is not the pathway to peace. Trust. So if I wake in the night and feel the temptation to pick up those strings again, remind me that they're already held. If I find myself mentally sorting through conversations or outcomes, remind me that nothing urgent waits in the dark. If I feel anxiety sneak back in like a shadow under the door, let me remember, you are still here. You haven't changed because I laid my head down. You didn't clock out because I stopped producing. You remain steady, watching, present, kind. I imagine now that same small boat in the harbor, not sailing, not striving, just resting, gently tethered, rocking slightly with the motion of the water. It's not going anywhere tonight. It doesn't need to. The wind can wait. The tide can rise and fall without it being a problem. All is well here, and just like that boat, I can be still too. Not useless, not forgotten, just still, because stillness is holy too. There are things I can't answer, things I can't fix, things I can't force. But there is also this: I can breathe, I can loosen, I can soften, I can surrender, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. I can remember that being held is a better strategy than holding everything myself. So here is my soul, tired of playing God. Here is my mind, tired of trying to outthink grace. Here is my heart, tired of auditioning for worth. Here are my hands, tired of clutching the wheel. Here is my body, aching for rest. Take them, not as problems to solve, but as offerings of presence, not to be corrected, but to be comforted. And in the quiet that follows, in the slow drift towards sleep, speak something true and kind over me. Not advice, not correction, just truth. Whisper it like lullaby, breathe it like air. Let it settle into my bones and stay there until morning. Tell me I'm not late. Tell me I'm not a failure. Tell me I'm still good. Tell me the night is not a punishment. Tell me rest is not a waste. Tell me you are not disappointed. Tell me I am allowed to stop. Tell me everything that matters is already being watched over. Let tonight be the beginning of a new rhythm. One where I don't chase sleep like a reward for exhaustion, but receive it as a birthright of being human. One where I don't grip the edge of rest with one hand still on the wheel. One where I enter stillness not as escape, but as surrender. Let the breath in my chest remind me that life does not depend on my control. It flows, it moves, it continues, and I am part of it, even when I'm not steering. So I release again, gently, slowly, not in a rush, not with performance, just quietly, truly. I give you the plans, the pace, the expectations. I give you the weight, I give you the wheel, and in return, I take the blanket, the soft pillow, the permission, the presence, the peace. There's a moment, sometimes, when the room is perfectly still, and yet something inside the chest continues spinning. The body can be tucked under blankets, the lights dimmed, the phone silenced, and still, somewhere, just beneath the collarbone, a quiet tension lingers, like the hum of an engine that's forgotten how to shut off. Not loud, not disruptive, just constant. And when you've lived with it long enough, it starts to feel like part of you. That subtle pressure, that low buzz of needing to be ready, to be alert, to be in control, it nestles in, convincing you that letting it go would mean losing a part of your edge, your awareness, your protection. But I don't want to spend my life mistaking anxiety for preparedness. I don't want to confuse vigilance with wisdom. I don't want to keep believing that the cost of peace is carelessness. I want to learn slowly and truly that peace does not ask me to look away from life. It asks me to trust that I am not alone in living it. God, help me notice where my control has become armor, not just over tasks or people, but over emotions. How often I've tried to manage my feelings with the same determination I use to manage my calendar. I've swallowed discomfort, postponed grief, repackaged fear into neat little plans. I've tried to stay 2 steps ahead of heartbreak by rehearsing it before it arrives, as if pain hurts less when you predict it. But it doesn't. All it does is stretch the ache longer than it ever needed to last. There's no freedom in pre-living every possibility. There's only fatigue, and I'm tired. God, not from lack of sleep, but from constantly trying to get ahead of every possible outcome. Tired from preparing for conversations that may never happen. Tired from softening my voice to avoid being misunderstood. Tired from analyzing every decision like it's a chess move in a game I never asked to play. Tired from anticipating disappointment and calling it realism. Tired from thinking that if I just try a little harder, I can outrun the chaos. I want to believe there's another way. Not an easier life, but a gentler path through it. One where I don't carry tomorrow on my back while still trying to stand upright in today. One where I don't believe that being ready for everything is the same as being wise. One where my spirit is allowed to rest, even if the world keeps spinning. Let that rest begin now. Not with a grand release or a climactic prayer, but with small honesty. I am human. I have limits. I am learning that acknowledging those limits is not failure. It's sacred. It's holy ground when I admit I can't do it all, can't fix it all, can't foresee it all. I don't need to be infinite to be valuable. I don't need to be all-knowing to be trusted. I don't need to hold the reins every moment of every day to live a life that matters. God, remind me that you don't measure me by how much I control. You don't love me more when I get everything right. You don't withdraw when I loosen my grip. You don't disappear when I finally let go. If anything, I suspect you draw closer, gently replacing my efforts with presence, my striving with mercy. I don't have to be excellent to be carried. I just have to be real. And tonight, there's a temptation, even now, to tidy up this surrender, to turn it into something structured. 5 steps to letting go, a mental checklist of what I've released. But I know that's just another form of control, a more subtle version, dressed in spiritual clothes. What I need is not a performance of surrender, but the actual release of it, the unstructured, unscripted kind. The kind that happens in the quiet of a bedroom when no one's watching. The kind that isn't pretty, but is true. So I stop trying to get it perfect. I stop analyzing whether I'm doing surrender right. I stop turning peace into a project. Instead, I let this moment be what it is. A simple turning toward trust, a movement however small, in the direction of softness. I won't force my way into rest. I will fall into it gently, the way night settles over the land. Slowly, steadily, without asking for permission. If I imagine surrender as a doorway, then control is the heavy luggage I keep dragging behind me. Convinced I need it to survive. But maybe I don't. Maybe the doorway is narrower than I thought, and it requires me to set those bags down, not because what they carry isn't important, but because not everything is meant to come with me into sleep. Some things belong to the day. Some things belong to the light. Night has its own wisdom, its own rhythm, and the wisdom of night is this: what cannot be solved can still be soothed. God, let me be soothed tonight, not because everything makes sense, but because I've decided it doesn't have to. Not because the chaos is calmed, but because I trust you to hold me steady within it. Not because I've become someone new, but because I'm willing to rest exactly as I am. I return to the image of the harbor. The boat still floats there, unchanged, untethered from movement, surrounded by stillness. The water barely ripples. No storm in sight, just the quiet lap of waves against wood and the shimmer of moonlight across the surface, that image isn't just a metaphor anymore. It's a map, a reminder. That harbor is not elsewhere. It's here. It's now. It's within me when I stop trying to force motion and simply allow stillness. And maybe that's the truest surrender, not the dramatic release of everything I fear, but the quiet acceptance that I don't need to fear it in the first place, that I can feel what I feel without needing to control what comes next, that I can sit with uncertainty without labeling it danger, that I can trust you to be good even when the path ahead is shadowed. If I keep chasing light, I'll miss the beauty of the dark. But in the dark, you are not absent. You are soft. You are quiet. You are closer than breath. You are not afraid of what I can't see. So let me lean into that closeness. Let me discover that the absence of control is not the absence of care. Let me find you not in the places I've built safety, but in the ones I've avoided because they felt too uncertain. I won't try to make the night productive. I won't demand insight or resolution. I'll simply ask to be held. In the confusion, in the tenderness, in the silence. If there's anything to hear, let it come softly. If there's anything to learn, let it arrive like a whisper. But if there's nothing but breath and presence, that is enough too. God, I don't need this prayer to be profound. I don't need this moment to be life-altering. I just need it to be honest. I just need it to be true. And the truth is, I'm tired, and I'm here, and I want to rest. Not just my body, but my soul. Not just my eyes, but my grip. Not just my mind, but my need to manage. So take the reins. Take the pressure. Take the illusion that if I stop moving, the world might collapse. Let me remember that the world spun long before I was born, and it will spin long after. Let me remember that I am allowed to stop, not because the work is done, but because you are still working. Let me sleep as someone who trusts the morning to arrive without her control. Let me rise as someone who believes she doesn't have to earn rest through exhaustion. Let tonight be the soft beginning of a slower life, a life not built on managing outcomes, but on living from presence. Let the harbor hold me. Let the water rock me. Let my mind unclench. Let the moon keep watch. Let your hands cradle the things I cannot. And when I wake, let it be not with dread, but with wonder that I made it through the night, not by controlling it, but by surrendering to the one who never left. There's a kind of stillness that doesn't arrive until everything inside is quieted down, not because the noise has vanished, but because we've stopped answering its every call. A stillness that doesn't demand the world be fixed, or the emotions sorted, or the answers revealed. Just one that wraps softly around the moment and says, this is enough. Not later. Not when the inbox is empty. Not when the conversation is resolved. Not when the future makes sense. Now, that's the stillness I've been chasing for so long without knowing how. I've tried to manufacture it by making to-do lists for peace, organizing my prayers like project plans, or rearranging my thoughts like furniture, hoping the right layout might make the silence feel less threatening. But peace is not something you arrange into place. It's something you receive. And tonight, I'm ready to receive. I no longer want to treat rest like a prize at the end of a race I never agreed to run. I no longer want to believe that surrender is a moment of weakness or a break in character. I want to see it as a rhythm, a return, a breathing in of grace, a breathing out of pressure. I want to stop approaching sleep like a task I must master and begin to approach it like a space that welcomes me without expectation. There is something deeply humbling about letting go of control, not in the dramatic moments, but in the quiet ones. It's not when life falls apart that surrender surprises me most. It's when I'm still holding it all together on the outside, yet feel the internal unraveling begin. When no one else sees the fatigue, but it colors every thought when I answer messages and finish tasks. But my soul feels brittle. That's when I realize how deeply control has woven itself into my sense of safety. And that's when I feel the gentle nudge of another way. God, I don't need a rescue tonight. I don't need a revelation or a plan. I need presence, the kind that doesn't ask me to perform or prove anything. The kind that stays even when I stop producing. The kind that says, you're allowed to rest now. Nothing will fall apart in your absence. I don't know when I started believing that I was the glue holding everything together. Maybe it was when I saw what happened when others let go too soon. Maybe it was when I heard that to be strong was to be the one who never flinched. Maybe it was when I was praised for how responsible I was, how mature, how capable, and I translated that into never let anyone see you fall apart. But strength isn't holding everything forever. Sometimes strength is knowing when to set it down, even if just for a while. So I set it down now. Not the love, not the care, not the calling, but the control. The belief that if I just stay alert, nothing bad will happen. The fear that if I soften, I'll be caught off guard. The inner voice that says, stay one step ahead or be left behind. I am done letting that voice be the narrator of my nights. I want the narrator to be something else entirely, something kinder, someone more faithful. I want the voice in the dark to say, you are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to stop. You are not holding the stars in place. You are not the keeper of every outcome. You can lie down without guilt. You can rest without apology. You are not irresponsible for taking a breath. You are not lazy for trusting that tomorrow can begin without a map. God, tonight, I give you my need to be ready for everything, for anything. I've tried to anticipate every twist in the road, every hidden turn, but there is no peace in over-preparing for pain. There is only fear disguised as wisdom, and I want wisdom that leads to life, not exhaustion. So I stop rehearsing potential tragedies. I stop simulating disaster scenarios. I stop trying to secure joy by scanning for sorrow. I simply say, here I am, and here you are. That's enough. If there is something I missed today, I give it to your keeping. If there is something I cannot fix, I trust it to your timing. If there is something I overthought, I let it go without needing to analyze it again. Let me fall asleep without a report card. Let me slip into rest without measuring the day by how much I accomplished. Let me sleep not because I've earned it, but because I was made for it. There's a quiet strength in learning to be held, in not trying to explain yourself to the dark, in not needing to justify your fatigue, in simply becoming small, not because you are shrinking, but because you are finally safe enough to stop expanding, safe enough to let your shoulders drop, safe enough to say, I've done what I can, and now I trust. Let that trust not be dramatic. Let it not feel like leaping off a cliff. Let it feel like exhaling after holding your breath too long. Let it feel like a boat drifting slowly into a still cove, sails down, no urgency. Let it feel like being tucked in. Let it feel like a warm hand resting gently over your heart. Let it feel like the quiet repetition of breath, in and out, steady and simple. There's a beauty in not needing to narrate your pain anymore, in not needing to sort your worries before sleep, in allowing the night to be what it is, a place of mystery, yes, but also of mercy, of being met in your undoneness, not scolded for it, of being reminded that surrender is not about giving up, but giving over, not abandoning your post, but handing the torch to the one who never grows tired. I don't need answers to everything tonight. I don't need to figure out what tomorrow requires. I don't need to finish thinking. I only need to believe that nothing sacred will slip through my fingers while I sleep. I only need to believe that your hands are not like mine, shaky, weary, unsure. Your hands are steady. Your hands are patient. Your hands are enough. So I place it all there. Not just the tangled parts, not just the broken dreams. Even the good things, the hopes I want to protect, the relationships I cherish, the plans I'm excited about. I place them all in your hands because I don't want to carry even joy with clenched fists. I want to carry joy with trust. I want to hold everything lightly, not because I don't care, but because I believe you care more. Let this be a night where nothing has to be performed, where no lesson must be drawn, where no growth has to be proven. Just a night to be, to breathe, to belong, to rest in the truth that I am not what I hold, I am not what I solve, I am not what I anticipate or protect. I am a soul held in grace. I am a heart known completely. I am a body welcomed into rest. Let my sleep begin, not with tension, but with relief. Let it be the kind that sinks deep, not just into mattress and pillow, but into spirit and bone. Let it be the kind that softens the parts of me still bracing for disappointment, the kind that speaks without words. You can let go now. You're not alone. You're not behind. You're not in danger. You're safe to rest. And if I wake in the night, let it not be panic that greets me. Let it be softness. Let it be the quiet assurance that nothing urgent waits on the other side of the dark. Let it be your presence, undemanding and near. Let it be a whisper that says, you're still held. Nothing has changed. Go back to sleep, beloved. You are not the keeper of the world. Let this night be an act of faith, not flashy or loud, but real. The faith to believe I can rest before everything is finished. The faith to believe that my worth is not tied to how well I manage. The faith to believe that grace keeps working even while I sleep. I let go again, not because I'm done, but because I'm human. Not because everything is resolved, but because I was never meant to live on constant alert. Not because I've figured it all out, but because I don't need to. I release the pressure to be in control, and in its place, I receive the quiet gift of being held. Somewhere between breath and silence, something shifts. Not all at once, not with fanfare, but gently, like curtains slowly drifting apart as morning peeks through the edges. It's subtle, almost imperceptible, but it's there, the loosening. The part of me that has spent so many nights waiting for something to go wrong finally releases its grip. Not because I'm certain nothing will, but because I no longer believe that my tension is what keeps the world from breaking. That belief took root quietly over the years. That if I could just stay sharp, just stay ready, just hold everything with enough vigilance, nothing would slip, nothing would hurt, nothing would be lost. But it was never true. The hurt still came. The losses still found me. The things I feared happened anyway, and all my overthinking, all my effort, all my careful watching didn't make me safer. It just made me tired. I know now that safety doesn't come from vigilance alone. It comes from being anchored, not to outcomes, not to plans, not to people who might change their minds, but to presence, to love that doesn't move, to a God who doesn't need me to be on duty all night in order to keep my life intact. There's a deep permission in that realization. The permission to sleep without apology. The permission to stop rehearsing. The permission to stop checking on everything I've already surrendered. I don't need to audit my prayers or relay the burdens I've already placed in your hands. They haven't fallen out. You haven't forgotten. You didn't misplace what matters to me. It's still there. Still held. God, you are not absent in my silence. You are not offended by my fatigue. You are not measuring my trust in productivity hours. We don't need to pray harder to prove I believe you. I don't need to fill the space with words to deserve closeness. I can simply be here, quiet, and know you remain. And in that knowing, something inside me softens further. The tight places around my spirit begin to breathe. I stop trying to do rest right. I stop evaluating the depth of my surrender. I stop treating peace like a destination I haven't yet reached. Instead, I let it find me where I already am. Messy, unfinished. But the boat in the harbor hasn't moved. It's still there, rocking gently, not drifting. The wind has quieted. The water is glass. And for the first time, I realize I'm no longer waiting for something to change. I'm no longer asking for the next step. I'm not scanning the horizon. I'm simply resting in the stillness. Not because the sea has vanished, but because I've stopped rowing. This isn't resignation. It's not giving up. It's choosing a different kind of strength. The kind that whispers, you don't have to fight for control anymore. The kind that believes letting go is not the end of effort, but the beginning of trust. The kind that allows me to fall asleep without solving anything, without fixing what feels unresolved, without guarding every edge of my life like a fortress. I never meant for control to become my shelter, but somewhere along the way, I built walls out of responsibility, made armor out of planning. I told myself that certainty was the safest place to live, but now I know there's more freedom in the open air than in the carefully built cages of certainty. There's more healing in letting the light touch the messy corners than in trying to tidy them before anyone sees. There's more truth in breathing slowly than in achieving fast. So I breathe again, not because the day is behind me, but because I survived it. Not because the road ahead is clear, but because I'm not walking it alone. Not because I have all the answers, but because I trust the one who holds them. Let this night be a sanctuary. Not one I build from effort, but one I step into with simplicity. Let it be made of softness, of breath, of the kind of quiet that sings lullabies without words. Let my bed become more than a place to collapse. Let it become a symbol of release, a place where I stop being everything for everyone and simply become, and if there is still a part of me clinging, still grasping one small thread of fear, still tempted to double-check what's already been laid down, meet that part with compassion, not with scolding, not with shame, just with the same gentle presence you've shown every night before this. Sit beside that fear. Let it speak. Then remind it, quietly, that it can sleep too. This is not the end of the journey. I will still wake and face the world. I will still be called to act, to serve, to decide. But I will do it from a place of having been held. I will make decisions not from fear, but from rootedness. I will respond to life not as one who must control it, but as one who knows she is accompanied through it. So tonight, no more striving, no more planning, no more managing every detail. Tonight, I choose to be still, to trust the dark, to lie back and believe that goodness does not depend on my grip, that love is not delayed by my limits, that grace is not waiting for me to be better. It is already here. It is already enough. The room is quiet now, not just on the outside, but within. Something has shifted, almost imperceptibly, like a breeze that moves through the open window without asking for permission. There's no final click that says you've let go, no sudden release that announces peace has arrived. It's more like a soft settling, a sense that there's nothing left to do tonight except be here. Not perform, not solve, not reprocess the day. Just this stillness doesn't erase the questions. It doesn't rewrite what happened hours ago or guarantee what tomorrow will bring. But it does something better. It gives me a place to land, a place where the pressure dissolves and the presence remains, a place where control is no longer the currency of safety and trust becomes the language I speak without trying. God, I don't know how many times I've prayed this kind of prayer, how often I've whispered, "Take this from me," only to quietly pick it up again in the morning, not out of defiance, not even out of disbelief, just habit, just the muscle memory of a soul used to carrying too much. But maybe the miracle isn't in never picking it up again. Maybe it's in returning to you each time I realize I'm holding it again. Maybe grace is what meets me in the repetition, not what scolds me for the pattern. So tonight, again, I come, again, I open my hands, again, I trust that you are not weary of my process. You are not rolling your eyes at my slow learning. You are not timing how long it takes me to release. You are here, steady, patient, kind, and in your presence, I remember, this was never about doing surrender perfectly. It was about being willing to begin again and again and again. There is beauty in the beginning. I don't need to craft a better version of myself before I lie down. I don't need to rehearse what I'll say if things go wrong. I don't need to spin stories in my mind to prove I'm in control. I don't need to justify my fear or over-explain my fatigue. You already know. You already see. And you're not asking for polish. You're asking for presence. And so I give you what I have. Not what I wish I could bring. Not what I think I should offer. Just what I have. Somewhere in this gentle unraveling, I stopped searching for a sign that it's safe to let go. Not because I suddenly became brave. Not because I figured everything out, but because I realized that maybe safety doesn't always come in the form of certainty. Maybe peace doesn't have to prove itself before I rest in it. Maybe trust is what begins when I stop demanding explanations and start accepting presence as enough. There's no dramatic moment, no clear line with a burden lifted, only this soft awareness that I'm no longer gripping quite so tightly. That the thoughts still come, but they don't drag me under. That the tension still flickers, but it doesn't rule the rhythm of my breath. That the fear still whispers, but its voice doesn't sound like truth anymore. I've been here before, this space where the night opens up and silence becomes more than absence. I've heard this stillness speak without sound, felt it press against my heart without urgency. There is no performance left to give. No need to impress heaven with my surrender. No need to articulate a perfect prayer. The only thing asked of me now is presence, to stay, to allow, to breathe. And so I stay. I breathe. I allow myself to be exactly as I am. No softer than I am. No braver, no wiser, no calmer, just honest, just real. Just tired enough to admit that control has never been the anchor I wanted it to be. It kept me busy, but it never made me feel truly safe. It gave me the illusion of certainty, but not the comfort of love, and I am ready to release the illusion. Even if part of me still wishes it could work, even if some small thread still tugs at me and says, "But what if you lose everything by letting go?" Even that voice, tonight, is met with kindness, not resistance, not shame, just the soft reminder that I'm no longer building my life around what might fall apart. I am choosing, instead, to be carried, not in theory, in reality, in this breath, in this stillness, in this moment, where I don't need anything to shift in order to rest in what is. God, I'm done asking you to show me proof that you're near. I'm done treating closeness like a transaction, as if I could earn peace with enough words or the right posture. You've never asked for fornance. You've asked for trust. And trust, I'm learning, isn't loud. It doesn't shout over my fear. It doesn't fight to be noticed. It waits. It holds. It remains. even when I've turned away, even when I've tried to earn what was already mine, even when I've wandered in circles, looking for what was never hidden. You were here, and now I am too. Let this presence be enough. Let this nearness speak where my prayers fall silent. Let this stillness soak into the corners of my mind where tension used to reign. Let my body feel what my soul already knows, that I don't have to watch over my life all night long. I don't have to protect myself from what has already been placed in your care. I don't have to rehearse every possible outcome before I sleep. I can stop writing contingency plans for a future I was never meant to carry alone. I can stop auditioning for worth. I can stop measuring safety by my ability to predict and prepare. I can stop narrating my fears in hopes that saying them out loud will keep them from happening. There is nothing to prove tonight, nothing to accomplish before rest becomes permitted, nothing to arrange before sleep can be received. There is only this quiet exchange. I loosen my grip, you stay. I let go of the weight, you hold what matters. I stop explaining, you keep listening. I rest, you remain. I've tried to rest on my own strength before. It never works. I may close my eyes, I may lie still, but inside I'm still spinning, if not in action, then in worry. But tonight I don't want to simulate rest. I want the real thing. I want the kind of rest that reaches deeper than sleep, the kind that untangles the knots behind my ribs, the kind that tells my nervous system it can finally step down, the kind that meets me not at the edge of exhaustion, but at the beginning of grace, not when I've run out, but when I finally choose to stop running. I used to think surrender would feel like defeat, that it meant giving up, that it meant settling, that it meant weakness. But I see now it's none of those things. Surrender is the moment I stop striving for what was never mine to manage. Surrender is the moment I trust that I'm still held when I'm not holding everything together. Surrender is what happens when I stop clenching and begin receiving, not reluctantly, not as a last resort, but as the truest, most honest thing I can do. So I receive tonight, not what I imagined, not what I planned, but what is. The breath that comes without demand, the presence that stays without condition, the peace that doesn't require me to understand it to live inside it. I receive the stillness not as a sign of failure, but as a promise that I'm not the one who keeps the world turning. I receive the quiet not as an absence of answers, but as the fullness of being known beyond what I can explain. I receive the rest not as a reward for effort, but as a birthright of trust. Let this be enough. Let me be enough. Let the unfinished edges of my day be held without shame. Let the unresolved things be carried without pressure. Let the parts of me that still want to fix, arrange, rescue, anticipate, let them rest too. I won't fight them. I won't scold them. I'll just invite them, gently, to stop for now. There is nothing urgent. Nothing is waiting for me to stay awake and watch over it. You are already here. You are already watching. You are already tending to the things I cannot see. And if I forget again, because I probably will, you'll still be here. If I wake and reach for the thoughts again, you'll still be holding them. If I tighten up, if I try again to grip what I've just released, you'll gently remind me that it's okay to come back, that you haven't gone anywhere, that I don't have to start from scratch, that surrender is not a test I pass or fail. It's a rhythm I return to. And you receive me every time. So let me return again now, into your rest, into the breath, into the stillness that doesn't silence the world, but meets me within it, into the quiet that no longer feels empty, but full of unseen care, into the softness that says I can sleep without regret, that I can sleep without solving. that I can sleep without earning it first, that I can sleep because I am loved, and I am held, and I am home. There's something sacred about staying in the quiet long enough for it to become familiar, not something to get through, not a hallway to rush down, but a room to dwell in, a place to breathe without hurrying toward the next thing. I think I used to see stillness as the absence of life, as if it were the blank space between meaningful events. But now, I'm beginning to recognize it as something entirely different, not the absence of life, but the center of the place where the deepest movements of the heart happen, not in noise or action, but in the gentle rhythm of breath, in the warm hush of presence, in the patient slowing of the spirit that has nothing left to prove. I've spent so much time believing I needed to keep going in order to be faithful. That momentum itself was proof of my purpose, that if I stopped, truly stopped, I might miss something vital or lose something important. But it turns out that what I was missing wasn't in the next task, or the next breakthrough, or the next insight. It was here, in the part of me that only wakes up when everything else has calmed down, in the still, open space that no schedule can fill, in the quiet warmth that only grows when I stop asking it to perform. There is nothing more to do tonight, not in my thoughts, not in my spirit, not in my body. No final adjustment to the plan, no last moment of effort, no hidden corner of my mind that needs to be organized before sleep arrives. Everything that needed my attention has already been seen by you, and it is enough. I have nothing left to hold up, no emotional scaffolding to maintain, no need to stay propped up on beliefs that say I'm only valuable if I'm producing, pleasing, or performing. I don't need to be anyone's source of wisdom or strength right now. I don't need to anticipate who might need me tomorrow or how I'll handle the challenges that aren't even here yet. I don't need to rehearse strength or simulate confidence. I am not the strong one tonight. I am the one being held. God, thank you for not requiring more of me than this. Thank you for receiving me without commentary, for not correcting my posture before letting me lean, for not asking me to smile while I let go, for not needing me to explain why I held on for so long. You know the reasons, the fears, the weight, the overcompensation, the pressure I put on myself even when no one else asked for it. You've watched me fight invisible battles and carry invisible burdens, and you never mocked me for trying so hard. You never told me I was foolish for believing I had to do it all alone. You just waited, patient and kind. You stayed close, even when I turned my focus inward and tried to solve life without you. You didn't withdraw. You didn't shut down. And now I feel it, this subtle shift, like the floor beneath my heart, becoming more solid, more soft, more trustworthy. Not because the world has changed in these past hours, not because my circumstances have magically resolved, but because something inside me has finally stopped bracing. The shoulders that held the weight of 1,000 imagined futures have dropped. The muscles that stayed locked in anticipation of what could go wrong have softened. The breath I kept forgetting to take has returned, long and full. And in this, I feel the presence that was always here, now unobstructed. I didn't need to chase you down. I didn't need to perfect my prayer. I didn't need to arrive at some spiritual milestone to qualify for peace. All I had to do was stop long enough for my soul to remember that you've been with me from the beginning of this day, that you never left, even when I got distracted, that you never closed the door, even when I stopped knocking, that you never looked away, even when I doubted. So I stay here, no more searching, no more fidgeting in my spirit, no more adjusting my heart to try to feel more deserving. I am not here to become worthy of rest. I am here because rest is already mine, not as a prize for making it through the day without breaking, not as a reward for being strong, but as a gentle invitation that's always been extended I just didn't know how to say yes until now. And now I say yes. Yes to the quiet. Yes to the breath. Yes to the warmth of this bed, the softness of this night, the calm in this corner of the world that doesn't demand anything from me right now. I say yes to being enough without being impressive. I say yes to being small, not in a shameful way, but in the kind of smallness that fits perfectly inside the hands of grace. I say yes to not needing to control what heals me. I say yes to being surprised by peace that comes slowly and settles deeply. I say yes to letting this stillness hold me until morning. And you will not be frustrated by the repetition. You will not pull away when I forget. You will not sigh in disappointment when I fumble through the practice of trust. You will still be here every time, without conditions, without impatience, with the same open hands, the same quiet nearness, the same unwavering love, the kind of love that doesn't demand progress in exchange for presence, the kind that waits in the stillness until I am ready to feel it again. I am ready to feel it now, not in a dramatic way, not in some loud spiritual awakening, just here in the soft ache of surrender, in the gentle unclenching of what I've carried for too long, in the invisible but unmistakable shift where control dissolves and peace takes its place. I won't hold on to it too tightly. I won't try to make this moment permanent. I know that tomorrow will have its own rhythm, and I will likely forget again. But tonight, in this small and sacred hour, I've remembered something essential. I don't need to be in control to be safe. I don't need to be perfect to be loved. I don't need to have all the answers to be at peace. I only need to rest in the truth that I am not alone. I am not forgotten. I am not in danger. I am held. I am home. There is a certain relief that comes when you finally stop trying to hold everything steady, when you stop bracing for the next disruption or rehearsing how you'll respond if things fall apart. It doesn't mean the world suddenly becomes calm. It doesn't mean that tomorrow will unfold in perfect order, and it doesn't mean that the storms won't come again. What it means is that you no longer live with your hands permanently clenched around the wheel of a ship that was never fully yours to steer. The harbor has already been promised. The tide already knows its rhythm. The waves already answer to something greater than your own strength. Letting go doesn't remove the uncertainty of the sea, but it allows you to sit back in the boat without exhausting yourself in the dark. It allows you to breathe and trust that the same one who called the waters into being has not forgotten how to keep you afloat. I think of how many hours I've spent in my life imagining what could go wrong, building scenarios that never came to pass, preparing speeches I never had to deliver, guarding myself against pain that was not even real. Each time I thought I was being wise, thought I was staying one step ahead, thought I was protecting myself and those I loved. Yet what I was really doing was shrinking my own soul, tightening it into a ball of tension, telling myself that vigilance was love when really it was fear. The irony is that no matter how much I prepared, life still came with surprises. Some were tender, some were painful, but all of them reminded me that control is not the shield I thought it was. And now, as night folds itself around me again, I no longer want to practice vigilance as if it were faith. I want to practice trust as if it were breath steady, unforced, natural. God, you know how hard it is for me to accept that things will be left undone, that conversations will remain unresolved, that outcomes will stay unclear. My instinct is to close every circle, tie every knot, and smooth every wrinkle before I can allow myself rest. But tonight, I confess that this is not how you asked me to live. You never told me that I had to keep the universe stitched together in order to be loved. You never asked me to be the glue that holds every relationship, every responsibility, every plan. That was something I assumed, something I carried out of fear, something I turned into a rule for myself. And now I want to put that rule down. I want to live in the kind of freedom that says, even when it's not finished, I am allowed to sleep. Even when I don't know the outcome, I am allowed to rest. Even when the thread hangs loose, you will not let everything unravel. There is a sweetness in releasing the myth that life must be perfect before I can be at peace. That myth has chased me through too many nights, whispering that joy is only available once I solve everything. But joy is not waiting for perfection. It is waiting for permission. Permission I can give myself right here, right now, without waiting for anything else to change. Peace is not earned by resolving every detail. It is received by trusting that I don't have to. And trust is not a feeling I conjure up by trying harder. It's the act of leaning back into arms that never grow tired. It's the choice to remember, again and again, that I am not the one keeping watch over the night. You are. So here I am, breathing deeper now than I did when this prayer began, shoulders softer than they were an hour ago, heart slower, steadier. The questions are still there, hovering at the edges of my thoughts, but they don't demand an answer anymore. They've lost their sharpness. They've lost their urgency. They are like waves that rise and fall without crashing against me, because I am anchored in something stronger. I don't have to chase them down or push them away. I can let them pass. I can let them dissolve into the silence, and know that if they matter, you will hold them until I wake. This is the kind of surrender I once thought impossible. Not dramatic, not full of sudden revelation, but steady, gentle, almost ordinary. It doesn't look like a miracle from the outside. It doesn't sound like a triumph. But inside, it is a miracle. It is the quiet victory of peace over fear. It is the calm strength of trust over vigilance. It is the soft whisper of love over the harshness of control. It is the moment I no longer need to fight my own soul into submission, because my soul has found its home in your presence. So I lie here without needing to do more. I rest without needing to prove more. I surrender without needing to understand more. And as I do, I feel the gift of being small, not insignificant, not forgotten, but small in the way a child is small when held by someone stronger. Small in the way that brings relief, not shame. Small in the way that finally feels safe. Because if I don't have to hold the world tonight, then I can finally rest inside it. Surrender is not something I mastered and moved on from. It's something I return to again and again, like a familiar room that always welcomes me, no matter how long I've been gone. I used to think letting go was a single moment of clarity, a once-in-a-lifetime decision that would set everything right. But now I see that it's more like breathing. It comes and goes. It rises and falls. It finds me when I least expect it, and asks only that I notice it and follow where it leads. Surrender, real surrender, is not dramatic or showy. It's not loud or impressive. It doesn't demand that I make promises or say all the right things. It just waits until I'm ready to lay down the weight and stop pretending I can carry it all. Tonight I return again. Not because I failed the last time, but because I'm human. Because control is a reflex I keep unlearning. Because I've picked up things today that don't belong to me, worries that aren't mine to solve, fears that aren't rooted in the present moment, expectations I never chose but still try to meet. Somewhere between my morning thoughts and this quiet night, I've forgotten the freedom of not having to hold it all. So I come back, not ashamed, not discouraged, not frustrated with myself. I come back with a kind of softness I didn't used to have. The kind that says, this is not failure, this is practice. This is what it means to be loved by a God who never tires of holding me, even when I come with the same burden again and again. And the burden is never quite the same. Sometimes it's shaped like doubt, sometimes like fear, sometimes like overthinking, sometimes like responsibility that got too heavy somewhere along the way. Sometimes I don't even know what it is, only that it sits in my chest and tightens everything. And yet, every time I bring it here, into this quiet, into this prayer, into this surrender, I find room again. Space inside my lungs, warmth behind my eyes, the slowing that tells me I don't have to live at the pace of worry anymore. I can slow down, I can rest, I can be. God, you've seen all of it today. The moments I tried to push through, the times I overreached, the subtle ways I tried to earn love or worth by doing more. You watched me try to manage what I couldn't fix, to control what wasn't mine, to stay ahead of outcomes I feared, and you didn't turn away. You didn't step back when I tensed up again. You didn't abandon me while I played God. You stayed near, waiting for this very moment. The moment I finally remember that I'm not in charge of the tide, that I was never asked to be, that being held is more powerful than holding everything, that being loved is better than being perfect. I look around this room, the quiet, the soft light, the stillness I used to fear. It used to feel empty, like something was missing. But I see now, it's not empty. It's open. It's ready. It's full of the kind of presence that doesn't need to shout to be felt. There is a holiness in this space I used to rush past, a kind of sacredness that meets me only when I stop proving, stop planning, stop resisting the quiet. It's here I remember. You are not impressed by my striving. You are not closer when I'm performing well. You are close now, in my stillness, in my slowness, in the fragile beauty of not knowing what's next and letting that be okay. So I let it be okay. I stop rehearsing my worth. I stop explaining my fatigue. I stop trying to outthink grace. I just let it cover me. Not because I'm finished, not because everything is resolved, but because you never asked for anything more than this. My presence, my willingness, my trust, even if it trembles. You're not disappointed by the process. You're not impatient with my pace. You're just here, and you always will. Let that be enough for me tonight. Let that presence be enough. Let that nearness replace the noise I used to fill my silence with. Let this quiet be a home, not a punishment. Let this surrender be rest, not loss. Let me finally believe in my bones that I can start guarding everything and still be guarded, that I can sleep without being forgotten, that I can be still and not fall behind, that I can be imperfect and not unloved, that I can surrender and not disappear. And if there is anything left in me tonight that still clings, any last knot, any stubborn corner still holding on, I will not fight it. I will not shame it. I will just place it in your hands too, slowly, tenderly, as one who is learning how to trust. Again and again, I choose to place the weight down. Again and again, I choose to stop gripping what only wears me out. Again and again, I return to the quiet harbor where control is no longer the currency I trade for safety, but the lie I finally stopped believing. You are the safety now, not my plans, not my foresight, not my preparedness. Just you, just this stillness, just the breath I take now, the softness I feel in my chest, the warmth in my hands, the settling of my soul as it finally stops running. I don't have to chase rest tonight. I don't have to earn it. I don't have to unlock it with the right combination of thoughts. I just have to say yes to it.